Tonight. I'm John, KK6, CBQ, and we have special guests tonight to talk about their soda and brewing adventures and to get us excited for August 17th, Saturday, August 17th, where we will be doing our own soda quota weekend. And we'll have teams going to 2 summits. Are we still on for that? Most likely, yes.
Well, the school year's starting, there are a lot of things.
A lot's going on at this time of year. We have a plan to go to activate 2 summits. Jeff, W2JCL, will be leading one group, one summit, and Rick, KI6, ZKM, will be leading another group on a summit. And then I'm going to go to Rio de Los Angeles State Park for a POTA activation. Our first speaker, Walter Savvy Savinovich, W1SAV, has activated many a park. He's going to talk about POTA now, but also Rio de Los Angeles, and tentatively planning to be there as well.
Yes.
Never activated before, this will be a chance to get on and get some points in your account on the soda and quota programs. Or of course you can chase from home. You can communicate with the teams that are either in the park or on the summits there. So Savvy's going to go first, and he's going to talk about quota tonight, and then David Hodge and 6AN is going to talk about soda and all of his, he's a very active soda operator. You know him from Field Day, Pasadena Radio Club, and there is a connection to David in our door prize. So stay tuned for that. So we're going to start with Savvy. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Savvy, W1SAV. I'm local ham from Alhambra. And I'm a 5-year-old ham at this point. I like POTA. And about 4 years ago, I started my Morse code journey. And now I pretty much activate mainly in Morse code. It has a little bit of a challenge and very satisfying. Not that sideband isn't satisfying. You can hold long rag chews, but even then. So that's where I sit currently. So this presentation on POTA is really my experiences, okay? And so in expressions and opinions on software and whatnot, it's all these are all my opinions, and of course, feel free to differ. Again, your mileage may vary. So what happened is back in 1916, the U.S. established National Parks program, and I think Yellowstone might have been the very first national park in the U.S. A century later, the ARRL established a National Parks on the Air contest. This contest was quite successful. I mean, people just loved it. So about a year later, a guy by the name of Jason Johnston founded POTA. And in 2018, it became a full-fledged nonprofit organization, and it's now permanently adoring the ham radio world. Currently, we have just shy of 12,000 parks in the U.S. alone. These are federal level and state level parks, and also it's spread over all the continents as well. So there are hundreds of entities that have programs. Now, keep in mind that the U.S. has at least 6 of them. You have the continental U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, and so forth. So there's a lot of stuff to do and a lot of parks to hunt around the world. Why? And when I usually talk about this, the bottom line is literally there, the bottom line. It's just plain fun, okay? You're out of your shack. You got the wind and smells and experiences wafting all over your body, birds, animals. I mean, it's just a lot of fun to do that, right? And also with this club, if you look there in the middle, you have train for off-grid comms. So that also helps out because you can now train yourselves going out there, setting up, and making sure things work. So that's a good way to do e-comms. There are two basic aspects to the POTA program. You have the activators and you have the hunters. One does not exist without the other, okay? So as an activator, you take your equipment and you put it wholly inside the boundaries of the park, okay? A little bit different than soda, but conceptually the same. And then you set up your equipment there. You try to contact or see if you can get contacts from around the country or around the world. The other side of that are the hunters. The hunters sit in their shack, just like you see me here, and you literally go to the POTA site, look at the spots, and try to contact as many people as you can. I mean, that's what you do. Nowadays, everybody knows that propagation has been not the best. But those are the two components. One cannot live without the other. Spotting, just like in soda, there's a spotting page for soda, there's a spotting page for POTA as well, and it works like any spotting page. The last person who's been spotted goes to the top of the list, and the spots look like the right side of the screen. They're not that complicated. Things to look at is pretty much at the bottom where it says last heard. If the spot has been there for about 25, 30 minutes, well, they're probably taking a walk, eating lunch, sleeping, or doing something other than activating at that particular moment, okay? And you as a POTA activator can spot yourself as well. Okay.
Quick question, if you don't mind. How long does the typical activation last?
And this is a typical ham radio answer. It depends. And the reason I say that is because on the East Coast, you can throw up a gutter in a tree, put a wire to it, and on 40 meters, you'll get 10 contacts in 20 minutes. Out here, this is like the desert out here, literally the desert. It takes time and effort. I have gone as much as 2 hours trying to get 11 contacts. So it all depends. Of course, the propagation is not helping any, right? A while back, I was at Kenneth Hahn State Park, and I got 82 contacts, and I'm like dancing up and down, breaking my arm, trying to pat myself on the back. But the last time I was there, I was crying just to get 11. So it just all depends. So with scheduling, okay, you can actually schedule your activation in the POTA page. And you want to do this, one, to let your buddies know where you are and when you're going to be there, okay? So some folks will rearrange their times, whether morning or afternoon, to make sure to try to get you, because it might be a park they don't have that they want. It might be a state that they don't have that they want to get, or they're your buddy. They want to contact you and give you, help you get those 10 contacts. So that's kind of important. But the biggest thing here is if you're doing it in CW, the POTA site has a process running that reads the RBN, the reverse beacon network, okay? So what happens is that, oh, okay, here's Savvy, here's our member, and yeah, it's between, usually, what is it, between 1300 and 1800 UTC. Oh yeah, he's calling CQ, and what the POTA site will do for you is spot you automatically. Just like the last one here, it says RBN 23 dB, 15 words a minute. That's a RBN and POTA spotting you. So it'll happen automatically while you're running or using Morse code, which is kind of neat. And if you change frequencies, guess what? It follows you up until the time you send QRT or you enter a comment of QRT, and then you're off the system. An interesting thing here, which is not too far away, is Watts Tower, or Watts Towers, okay? This is the smallest state park I could find in the country, right here in our backyard, 0.11 acres. This thing is a postage stamp, okay? And you have to be inside the park to count. So if you're parked in the parking lot, you're not in the park, not in the state park. So whatever activations anybody here may have heard of about activating Watts Towers, if they did it from their car, sorry, doesn't count. I have a couple of radios that I like to play with. I usually, or rather not usually, I started out with the FT891. It's a wonderful, wonderful radio, 5 to 100 watts. The first DX Hunter that I got was out of Los Angeles Historical State Park. I was using 20 watts, and I got a guy in Northern Ireland. So you can get DX here because people will, you know, try to hunt you. And it used to be, up until I switched to the KX3, well, primarily, I was disappointed if I didn't get DX while activating a park. New Zealand, Japan, Argentina, Chile, Sweden. Anyway, the list goes on. So, and you can see here I have a big orange box that says W1SAV. That houses my 30 amp hour Bioenno battery, and it powers the radio, the tuner, the computer, my cell phone, or any other powered thing that I need to have. And I've been known to leave the park with a higher charge on my battery than when I got there, when I use solar panels to augment that. My KH3 is an awesome machine. It's absolutely, it's got all the bells and whistles in there, except for 2 meters, Steve. It doesn't have 2 meters.
Yeah. Get you a gift because it's going to be the module.
Oh, no, you're not. Okay, so what happens, this thing uses a 3 amp hour battery, and it sips the juice as opposed to drinking the juice like the FT891. I have gotten everywhere, every continent that the QRO radio, that the 891 has gotten. And I've gotten cross country and so forth. All of that, of course, dependent on propagation. I have 3 major antennas. The MPAS, which is the Modular Portable Antenna System, is an awesome, it's my go-to, it's my last resort. It never fails me, it works just fine. And I use that in the vertical configuration. So with a spike in the ground, it just about touches 19 feet in the sky, in the air, and one counterpoise. And I've been able to get everywhere with it, Mother Nature allowing that to happen. Okay. And the other one is the Tactical Delta Loop, which is awesome. I did that from Chino Hills up against some mountains, but I still had a wonderful activation, got everything I needed. And if you do it at 40 meters or below, it'll work as NVIS. So hell's bells, you got it right there. The LEF's lightweight end-fed sloper, 40, 20, 15, and 10 works just fine without a tuner. 1.3 to 2.5 or so SWR, that's eminently workable. But the KX3 always has a tuner, so bada bing, bada boom. So after I activate, I'm able to make pretty maps like this, okay? But in order to be able to make a pretty map like this, you have to log and upload your log. So the logging software that I have at home is N3FJP, the amateur contact log. That's everything that I've got, or rather everything that I've got in it is the combination, you know, all contacts, over 8,000 contacts at this point. But that's too much for out in the field. N1MM Plus, people use it on mobiles or cell phones and whatnot. It's too complicated. Once I got into the latest computer in my shack, that thing will never touch my computer again. It's just too much work. Ham 2K Polo is out, and it's currently trying to be adapted for, I believe it's Android. The problem with it at the moment, it is web-based. So when you go activating, you may find you do not have web connectivity. So it's not going to do you any good. So the bottom line here for me is that I don't use any phone apps, because when you try to hit that little keyboard with fingers, even though I don't have them that big, it just doesn't work. My eyes are strained, and it's like, you know, to hell with it. It's not going to work for me. So they're not used. What do I use? When I'm out in the field, I use hammers. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you use as long as you're comfortable with it, right? So the nice thing about hammers is that, well, I can do connectivity, and if you go to Chino Hill State Park at the horse camp, you got free Wi-Fi from the camp about half a mile away. So that works like a charm. But it's not required. You don't have to have connectivity, because what happens when you don't have connectivity? You're writing down a couple of things, right? You're writing down the call sign, RST sent, RST received, the time, and the state, because that's really all you need for POTA. Since you're doing it on the computer, it's got the date and time already for you, so you're lessening the amount of information you got to put in there, okay? That works fine. But when you're still connected, though, you still are looking at the center screen, and you can see all the contacts, and you can edit them before you go home. And also, I don't know how many people have come up to me and have asked me, you know, what are you doing? And, you know, I explained. One day they asked me, are you talking to aliens? And I answered, I will not let them know you asked that, okay? Okay, all right. So, but when they come up and you tell them about the radio and where you're connected to and contacted, it's really good to bring up a map so they can see that. And at that point, right, when they see the map and the places you contacted, the ooh-ah squad comes out, okay? And you go from being a nerd to being cool about that fast, right? And that lasts, of course, until they leave. Then you just go back to being a nerd. So what happens when the battery dies? That's what happens. You're doing it by pencil and paper, or in this case, pen. There's a reason for this madness right here, and I've recently learned to better control that scribbling. But you have to do it, you have to log your contacts, because it is up to you to submit the log of your activation. And in doing so, you give the hunter credit for actually making the contact with you, okay? So the upload page for POTA requires you to send an ADIF file, okay? And I'm so glad about that, because I hate Cabrillo. So ADIF. And if you don't have a program or a logging program that can actually spit out your contacts in that format, you can actually enter them by hand in this page. There's an option to be able to do that. It's a whole lot better to do it with ADIF, okay? You have to be registered, right, to be able to activate and to be able to hunt, so that you can get credit. That's the thing. So, and if the activator doesn't upload, nobody gets credit. Things you want to keep in mind, and this goes for soda as well. 3 words: charge your batteries. I'll say that again: charge your batteries. The POTA site has a map page. In this case, you're seeing all the yellow dots, I think, in Southern California. You know where you live, figure out which one's the closest. If that's what you want to do, go there. So pick a park. Hit click on that yellow dot, and it'll bring up information about the park, okay? So you can see on here, towards the bottom on the left-hand side, you have websites, so you can go see information about that park. A lot of California parks state parks have how to get there. They have boundaries and so forth, so you can see. And on the right-hand side, you have a list in reverse chronological order of the last activators who activated the park and how many contacts they made. So if you're able to tell on the and it would be right here, I think. You don't see it. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Right here, on the 13th of July, I had 3 contacts. That does not an activation make. So when you go out there, you're not always guaranteed to make a contact or to make an activation. Okay. So you're finding out about the park. So finish your research, okay, on the park. Contact the last activators, or 2 or 3 of them, and ask them questions like, where were they located in the park? How did they get there? What to look out for in the park, okay, and what kind of antennas they used, right, or antenna. So the nice thing here is that you're getting a little bit of that 411 prior to going out to the field. If you ask me about Santa Susana Park, I would say, you know, there's one big oak tree out there that's just huge with at least a 40-meter bottom, and you got this circular 40-foot diameter shade area. It'll give you shade for days, okay? It's a wonderful place to activate. So also, by the way, watch out for the mountain lions and the rattlesnakes. Go have fun. Why do I do this? For me, it just comes down to teaching and training, right? I do it in written and in video form. And it's really to show others techniques and pitfalls, and even my own stupid human tricks. It's just the way it is. I don't cut those errors out of the written part nor out of the video. You should have seen me the first time I tried to use the KX3 on SSB. You can see it online. I'm trying to figure out how to connect the microphone. That was stupid. I should have just, figured it out earlier. But stuff like that will be in there. And what it does is it alerts or teaches or shows newer operators what not to do. So if that works, that works. That's pretty much it. So there is going to be a small video here. Give me 2 more minutes. Let's see if we can hear it. Hey, thank you for stopping by. Are you a ham? Have you been active on the air? Have you wondered about operating outdoors? Have you heard about parks on the air, or POTA? Yeah, I know. Lots of questions. But something brought you here, and it was probably ham related. You see, I focus on activating parks listed by POTA using Morse code. I will show you what I do, mistakes and all, so you can see what not to do in the future. You see the equipment I use, where I go, hear about my experience, and yes, my stupid human tricks. By no means am I a professional. I'm just an average ham who tries to show newer park activators that they too can go out to a park and have fun. You may find my blog site interesting because you can read about my experiences during my activations. You'll also find a data table at the end providing counts and equipment used. You can find my blog at w1sav.com. I'll tell you, there are no high-speed shots or quick camera cuts. My intent is to provide you with the experience of a park activation. Mother Nature provides the added flavor to the experience as well. So won't you come along with me on my POTA journey so we can continue learning together? I sure hope so. Ciao for now. So that's it for the presentation. I guess Q&As will come in after, that's a Dale, is it? So, one more thing. These are all of the links that I referenced, either actively or in passing, of all the items I talked about during the presentation. I sent John a copy of the presentation, or a link to the presentation, so that you guys can drop it and do with as you wish.
And I'll be able to post all of these. I've got that you sent me today.
Right, yeah, okay.
Today, yeah.
Yeah. I have that separately as well. So up at the top is the link for this same presentation.
Very nice. Thank you, Savvy.
If people have questions, I probably just assume while it's fresh, you only ask them.
Oh, okay.
Let there be light.
Sammy, do you have to ask permission for setting up a station?
At a park?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you do not, okay? But it is, one of the things that I do is I always try to find the park people, the supervisors and so forth, or the rangers, introduce myself and let them know what I'm doing, why, why it's a cool thing to do. So I try to educate them, right? And then I also invite them to come see what I'm doing. And the idea there is that, as a POTA activator, you're like an ambassador for POTA, right? And you're representing other activators. And if you can skid, grease the skids a little bit for the next activator, that's kind of cool. I went to activate at Pio Pico State Park, right? And I know Mary. I've seen her twice. The second time I go there, hi, Savvy. All right, okay. So I go meet her and shake her hand and so forth. And I thought, can I activate from inside the Adobe, like the patio itself? Oh yeah, it should be okay. And as I'm walking there with my backpack, I ask, do you guys have a table and a chair I can borrow? Oh, no problem. They set up a table and a chair for me, okay, to activate from the patio of the Adobe. And that Adobe, by the way, is the house of the last Mexican governor of the state of Mexico, California, right? So I'm like, yeah, this is cool. So always try to do that. So no permission is really granted, but is needed. But the important thing is to know the rules. Right? State parks, you cannot put anything in the ground. You can't hang anything off the trees. It doesn't matter that Los Angeles Historical State Park was a dried up cornfield 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. It's now historical, so there it is. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did you deploy on Mount Wilson? Did you deploy that?
I sure did.
How was the interference
From what?
from all the antennas up there?
Different frequencies. I didn't have
You
it.
had no. So on what
No.
bands did you activate?
Oh, I'd have to look it up online. I don't remember, honestly.
Was it mostly HF?
Oh, yeah.
Any VHF, UHF?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't. In fact, in some of my videos, you'll see 146.580 on a postage stamp on where I write stuff down. That's the, the adventure frequency,
Yeah.
right? And I always forget either to take the radio or to turn it off or to get it out of the car. It's just, so I never do it HF. I want to do that. The one time I tried it was at, I can't think of the name of the park. I got on 520, seeing if anybody could hear me. Nobody could hear me. Telling them, hey, I'll meet you at 580. I go to 580, CQ, POTA, CQ, nothing.
They probably could hear you, but you couldn't hear them.
Well, I wasn't on Wilson that time, and I never did act from Wilson, to be honest. Right?
The receiver's dead up there.
I'm sorry?
The receiver is just deaf when you get up there.
Oh, really? Oh,
I ask because I do want to. I've never walkie-talkie from Mount Wilson. I go to the Angeles Forest, but right off the tube, off like the third turnout. So I want to go further in to Mount Wilson, given that its coverage is so much larger than from where I activate. But it's my understanding that I will need a filter for 2 meters. Because I don't mention it to you, I play with 2 meter CW, so.
Oh, one other thing. If you go out activating with somebody else, and you are having each one of you bring a radio, so you have to BYOB. Bring your own bandpass filters, okay? Because you will interfere with each other. So that's important. I have them for 40, 20, 15, and 10.
Now, Savvy, the one thing that you didn't share in the presentation that you shared in the version with me is your dashboard. rolling out
This is
those.
true.
And
This is
That's a pretty impressive,
this is true. I mean, I can put it up there and talk about it, but as I was looking at how much was in there, POTA is not something you can cover just very quickly. So I'm hitting the very top elements of it. There are 2 or 3 slides in there about setting up, what to do, what order to put them in, things to consider, right? There's John is referring to a what I call the my log analyzer. So N3FJP uses a SQL database to hold my logs, all the information, and there is a web-based platform called Tableau Public, which can take tons of information and make it easy to visualize them. So I have one dashboard that's the entire screen that shows three pie charts, one for continent, one for band, one for mode, and then it's got a map in there. So as I set certain filters, everything gets updated. You can see where in the world I made contacts, and if the map is too small, I can blow up the map. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on there, including my POTA activations. You can see where I've done that. And this is something that the only thing that tied it to the presentation was the fact that it has a POTA filter in there. But otherwise, I could take the entire hour just doing POTA, and it's, I had to cut it down.
well, people can check that out by, it's linked off of your personal site, right, which is w1sav.com.
That's correct. So that's my blog, and in there, one of the pages is, I think it's Log Analyzer, and it explains a little bit of what it does, and it'll take you to that site and see. I think the last time I updated it was a day or 2 ago, maybe yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
It's a lot of fun and a lot of detail, and of course, hams are kind of detail oriented in that way, and you can get down. You can set a filter. For example, on 20 meters, you can set a filter for 20 meters and a filter for CW, for example. And then there's a table in the bottom left that shows band and let's see, band and mode, and you can see for every band, every single mode, all the counts for every, for all of that stuff. So you can see, for example, how many contacts you made on 20 meters CW, let's say with the continent of Africa. Now you've got 3 filters in there. You can clear them all and start over. But and of course, that's when I looked you up, John, and I found out that the last time you and I had a contact on the air, had a QSO, it was in August of 2020. So two contacts, two contacts. So.
Very nice. Any other questions for Simon before we turn it over to David Knowledge?
That's great, Simon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Super.